Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Hello, and welcome to Onlife Health's webinar series presented in conjunction with HealthTrust Slice of Life program. I am your host, Ashley Benningfield. I'm originally from Germantown, Tennessee, right outside of Memphis, and I graduated from the University of Tennessee in Knoxville in 2004 with a bachelor's degree in dietetics. And from there, I went on to complete my dietetic internship at Vanderbilt University. I've been at Onlife for 16 years. It's the only place I've ever worked, but I've held several positions at Onlife, and I currently serve as our content and digital media specialist. I love cleaning and organizing, working out, and spending time with my husband and 9-year-old son. So for those of you that have joined before, welcome back. And for those of you who may not have had the chance to join before, welcome. I look forward to interacting with everyone today. Today's webinar is titled Preventing and Managing Burnout. And before we begin, just a few housekeeping notes about the webinar. It's being recorded in a listen-only mode, so you'll be able to hear me, but I can't hear you. I've set aside about the last 10 to 15 minutes of the webinar for questions and answers, but you can always ask a question at any time by typing it into the Q&A box at the bottom of your control panel. And like I said, this webinar is being recorded, so after today's presentation, you'll receive a link to the recording via email. And I know I've asked if you can hear me, but if you're having any sound issues throughout the webinar, please let me know. So burnout has really become sort of a buzzword over the past couple of years. We're living in an incredibly stressful time. Burnout is very prevalent. We've dealt with so much in our work lives and personal lives, and it can really be a lot for a lot of people. So if your everyday stresses are causing emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion, you might be suffering from burnout. And burnout can have serious health consequences and spill over into your home, work, and even your social life. In today's webinar, you'll learn how to recognize, prevent, and cope with burnout. We'll discuss what burnout is and what causes it. And we'll take a look at the difference between stress and burnout. We'll also talk about how to recognize it, how to look for those kind of red flags, what to watch out for. And finally, we'll discuss some tips for tackling and extinguishing burnout. And at the end of the presentation, I'll provide a list of additional resources where you can find more information on the topic. And then, like I said before, we'll have some time for Q&A. So you can answer in the chat box, but do you ever have days when you feel like you're running on empty? I'm sure we all do, but when that feeling becomes chronic, you're at the risk for burnout. You've probably heard this old saying, take care of yourself first. You can't pour from an empty cup. If you've heard of that, take a minute and let me know. Just you can chime in using the chat box feature, but let me know what it means to you. What does it mean to fill your cup first? I'll give you just a minute to respond, and then I'll tell you what it means for me. Right, to be a bit selfish, absolutely. You cannot run a car if the gas tank is empty. That's awesome analogy, yes. Carrie said, focusing on your needs first so that you can help others. That's right. So for me, right, it means whatever you need to give to others, you must first give to yourself. So like someone just, I think it was Kimberly, about the gas. If I'm running on empty, then I can't give to myself. And if there's nothing in my tank, then everyone who's along for the ride, they get stuck alongside with me. So I must fill up my cup first, meaning I must replenish my mental, my emotional, and my physical stores first before I can help someone else. So essentially, us as humans, we have to, in order to effectively take care of others, we must first take care of ourselves. And while the notion is intuitive in nature, it can be more difficult to put into practice. So I hope by the end of today's presentation, you can learn at least one way that you can fill up your own cup so that you can help others. So what is burnout? And when doing research for this presentation, I came across several different definitions for burnout. A lot of them did have to do with work, which is relevant because burnout can absolutely do with your professional life. But I wanted to share these two definitions with you because burnout does really encompass all areas of your life. So the definition on the left is from Psychology Today, and it says, burnout is a state of emotional, mental, and often physical exhaustion brought on by prolonged or repeated stress. Though it's most often caused by problems at work, it can also appear in the other areas of life, such as parenting, caretaking, and romantic relationships. And then the one on the right is from the APA Dictionary of Psychology, and it defines burnout as physical, emotional, or mental exhaustion, accompanied by decreased motivation, lower performance, and negative attitudes towards oneself and others. And burnout, it might be the result of a job or a specific set of responsibilities, like being the primary caregiver for maybe a spouse or a child with a chronic illness, but it has an all-encompassing effect, and it tends to affect other facets of our life. And you may not even realize that you've hit burnout until it's too late. And if it's left untreated, it can wreak havoc on your health, your happiness at home, at work, and in your relationships. So now let's look at some signs and symptoms of burnout. So it's normal to feel helpless and overloaded or unappreciated sometimes, but like I've said already several times, if you feel like this most of the time, you may be burnt out. Burnout occurs gradually. It doesn't happen overnight, but it can sneak up on you. And there may be subtle signs and symptoms of burnout at first, but they become worse over time. So I kind of want you to think of the symptoms as red flags that indicate something's wrong. And when you recognize that red flag or see that red flag, by paying attention and becoming proactive, you can take care of yourself and avoid a breakdown. But if you ignore that red flag, you'll eventually burn out. So let's look at these signs and symptoms a little more in detail. You can see this table here, kind of broke it down into 3 different categories: physical, emotional, and behavioral. It really depends on who you are and what's burning you out, but burnout can look different for everyone. But I kind of outlined the most common symptoms for each category. So first, looking at the physical symptoms, exhaustion. This is one of the major symptoms of burnout. It doesn't matter how much sleep you get, you still feel exhausted when you face your day. And in fact, this form of exhaustion is so extreme that it cannot be made better by normal recovery phases, like when we think we'll get more sleep on the, another night or during the weekend, or even from going on vacation. This is the type of exhaustion that leaves you unable to concentrate and impacts your ability to work effectively and even feel positive about what you're doing. You might feel drained and have really low feelings and really low energy. And sometimes these symptoms can present themselves in physical pain, like with headaches or muscle pain, body aches, but they can also present themselves with stomach issues or other gastrointestinal problems. Changes in appetite or sleep habits may also occur. We're all creatures of habit, right? So when we experience changes to our diet or our sleep patterns, this should quickly be a sign that something is likely going on. You might notice that you're eating more or less than usual, or you're sleeping at different times of the day, or you may even feel the need to get more or fewer hours of sleep. And burnout can also lower your immunity and make you vulnerable to illnesses like the cold and flu. The middle column lists some of the common emotional red flags, such as increased cynicism and negative outlook, and feeling ineffective or incompetent. This refers to feelings of incompetence and a lack of achievement and productivity. So for example, when someone experiences this symptom of burnout, they might feel like their skills are declining. They worry that they will not be able to cope with certain situations or complete certain tasks. And it often occurs alongside the exhaustion and cynicism because people can't perform at their best when they're when they're out of fuel and disconnected from their work. It also can lead to burnout if you lack the resources and support to do your job well, such as enough time, enough information, clear expectations, autonomy, and good relationships with those that you need to succeed. So even if you feel unappreciated for your work and receive no feedback or meaningful recognition, that can also lead to burnout. There's a loss of motivation and detachment or disconnection, depersonalization, which is the lack of the ability to approach a person or task with a fresh perspective. You might have a sense of failure, self-doubt. You might feel helpless, trapped, and defeated. And again, decreased satisfaction and sense of accomplishment. Even though you work really hard, you might feel really ineffective. Finally, in the third column on the right, behavioral red flags. Taking your frustrations out on others or blame other people for your mistakes, withdrawing from your responsibilities or isolating yourself from others, even procrastinating and skipping work, coming in late and leaving early. These are all signs of burnout. And again, like I said, the more that you are able to recognize them, the more proactive you can be to take control and prevent a major burnout. It's important to note that there is a difference between stress and burnout, and being burned out is different than being stressed. You can have stress without burnout, but you can't have burnout without stress. And I'll explain that more right here. So here you can see a few differences between stress and burnout. Stress involves too much, having too many pressures that demand too much of you physically and emotionally. And when most of us are stressed, we're likely still able to cope with the daily pressures. We think that maybe once we get everything under control, we might feel better. And, we've all experienced stress in our lives, right? So a small amount of stress can actually be beneficial. It can keep us motivated to get things done. And we have a level of caring that's still there. But on the other hand, burnout is a totally different state of mind. Think about it like stress involves too much and burnout is about not enough. And when we reach the point of burnout, our motivation is gone, we're physically and mentally exhausted, and that level of caring is no longer there. When you're burned out, you feel empty, you're devoid of motivation, and like I just said, you're beyond caring. And when you think, like with stress, when you think you can get better, when things get under control, if you're experiencing burnout, you often don't see any hope of positive change in your situation. Stress can take a physical toll, whereas burnout takes more of an emotional toll. And excessive stress can make you feel like you're drowning in responsibilities, whereas burnout is like being all dried up. And most people are usually not aware that they're at the point of burnout, but most of us realize that we're stressed. We might feel, a little, have a little tightness in our shoulders or whatnot. But when we're at the point of burnout, we might not always recognize that we're already there. So now that you know the signs and symptoms of burnout, let's take a minute to talk about the causes. I'm going to ask you, and you can chime in the chat box, what kind of things do you think causes burnout? Maybe other than we've talked about, kind of alluded to work, but does anyone have any other responses as far as what could cause burnout? A sick child, yes. So we often associate burnout as something that stems from our job, right? But anyone, so from the person, the corporate businessman or woman who works 24/7 and maybe hasn't taken a vacation in years, to the mom that stays at home to take care of the kids and run them to this and that practice and takes care of the house, all while taking care of a aging parent. Anyone who feels overworked or undervalued is at risk for burnout. And like I said, it doesn't just happen as a result of too much work or too many responsibilities. Other factors, can contribute to burnout. I got a little scroll happy there. And one of the biggest causes obviously is work. Having a lack of autonomy is one of the most common work-related causes. You might feel like you have little or no control over your work, or you might feel like you don't have enough time to finish tasks and projects. Other common work-related causes include a lack of recognition or reward for your good work, or maybe you have unclear goals or job expectations. You might be doing work that's monotonous or not challenging, or you might have an excessive workload, too much to do. You might also work in a chaotic or high pressure environment, or have no support from your team, your boss, or even your organization. And all of these things can lead to burnout. Another cause of burnout is your lifestyle, right? So did you know that your lifestyle can also cause burnout? Things that you know, the way that you live and the things that you do even after work can cause burnout. So working too much, not leaving enough time for socializing or relaxing, not having those close supportive relationships, those people to turn to, taking on too many responsibilities, whether it's driving your children to this and that practice, or going to birthday party, that kind of thing, without enough help from others or lack of delegating, it can really take a toll on your health. Also, not getting enough sleep. And if you're like me, I'm the type of person who likes to stay busy. And I'll be honest, I'm probably not one to recognize when I'm doing too much. I'm used to going 100 miles an hour, and literally when I take my foot off the accelerator, I'm still going at 85. So at some point I have to realize that I can't sustain that pace all the time, because it's eventually going to catch up to me. And personality traits can also contribute to burnout. Having the perfectionist tendencies, nothing is ever good enough, having a pessimistic view of yourself and the world, the need to be in control, reluctance to delegate to others. Some of us don't like to ask for help, at work or anywhere. We like to think that we can do it ourselves. And then also the high achieving type A personality. So now let's talk about extinguishing the burnout. So you probably know by now, burnout is a serious matter, and it can lead to a host of health issues. So it's important to learn how to prevent, or as I'm saying, extinguish burnout. The good news is that you don't have to make sweeping changes. Even small changes to your current lifestyle can leave you feeling more satisfied. So when you're feeling burned out, one of the most important things you can do is prioritize your self-care. How many of you take time each day to prioritize yourself? Even if it's for 5 minutes, let me know. Let me know what you do, how long you spend doing it. Working out, yeah. Wordle, I love Wordle. I've also been playing this game. It's called Two Dots. It's great too. But just doing even those little things for 5 minutes a day can help take your mind off of things, right? So self-care is foundational to our well-being. It gives us what we need to feel well mentally, emotionally, and physically. And it's essential to make time to replenish our tank, because it's when we don't make time for ourselves that we get burned out. And like I've said so many times already, just the fact that it can lead to a whole host of other much more serious issues. So when I say prioritizing self-care, what does that mean? I'm referring to exercise, nutrition, and sleep. And if you're feeling burned out, exercise is probably the last thing that you want to do, but it can actually be a very powerful antidote to stress. and burnout. You can do it for 30 minutes a day. You can break that 30 minutes up into short 10-minute bursts of activity. And actually, a 10-minute walk can improve your mood for 2 hours. I know I walk with my neighbor once or twice a day. We'll just take each other and be like, hey, are you free? Do you have any meetings? Do you have a break? I have a break now. Can you do a lap? And it really does help. Doing exercises where you move both your arms and legs, like dancing, or I guess even running with your arms. It's really a big way to lift your mood and increase your energy. It also relaxes your mind and body, because I know when I'm out there with my neighbor, I'm not talking about my work. I'm talking about, how are the children, what did you do this past weekend? So it's kind of just a short break to get your mind off things. And did you know that what you put in your body can have a huge impact on your mood and your energy levels throughout the day? So foods rich in omega-3 fatty acids can actually boost your mood. For example, fatty fish like salmon, herring, mackerel, even sardines, walnuts and flaxseed are also good sources of omega-3 fatty acids. But on the other hand, foods that are high in carbohydrates and sugar, those can quickly lead to a crash in your mood and energy. Even watching and limiting your caffeine and alcohol intake can also help. But sleep is also vital for good physical and mental health, right? So we want to make sure that we're getting plenty of rest, and plenty of rest for one person might not be the same amount for another person. So it's when you get enough sleep, you're eating right, and engaging in regular physical activity. Again, it doesn't have to be going to the gym for an hour or walking for 30 minutes straight. Even those little short bursts of workouts or walks can help. When you do all of that, you have the energy and resilience to deal with life's hassles and demands and anything that's thrown your way. So now I want to focus on talking about taking a few minutes each day to do something for you. So like some of you have said, you play the Wordle, you play the games. So whether it's just relaxing, reading a magazine, journaling, meditating, doing yoga, or even spending quality time with friends or family, or maybe doing something fun like going to the movie or watching a Netflix show, whatever it is, setting aside some of that me time for you is so important. And if you start making it part of your daily routine, it will become a habit and you'll feel so much better. Next, listen to your body. At times, it's easier said than done. And again, if you're like me, I'm the kind of person that would just go, go, go. But I push myself, and then I often find myself relearning over and over again the importance of prioritizing my self-care. So pushing too hard when it's not the right time, that's just a recipe for burnout. And again, like I've said before, you may not realize that you've hit burnout until it's too late. Like when you've crossed that line between I'm really tired and I'm too exhausted to function. And I'm going to tell a true story here. I actually experienced this the other day. I'd had less than 5 hours of sleep 2 nights in a row. And that third day, I was literally a zombie. I couldn't focus on my work. I could barely even think. And of course, I was cranky. And going back to those signs and red flags, I was taking my frustrations out on everyone else. If you've been attending these webinars for a while, you've probably heard some mention or stories of how I love to clean and organize and how I can never go to bed when things aren't put away, like if there's stuff laying around in the sink or laundry to be folded. Well, the other night I was literally like, I don't care. My body was telling me no more. So I listened to my body and I got, I think, 9.5 hours of sleep, and it was fantastic. I did really feel like a brand new person the next day. So it was great. So your body will give you those cues that it's time to slow down, but you have to listen to it. Feeling tired can make burnout worse and impact your thinking. So please prioritize and take care of yourself. You also want to create balance. Yes, we have to take care of ourselves physically, but making sure that we're giving attention to the other areas of our life, like maintaining and nurturing our social connections and visiting with family and friends and enjoying a little bit of fun and even your spiritual well-being. And get support, talk it out. When we talk face-to-face with a good with someone who's a good listener, it's one of the best ways to calm our nervous system and relieve stress. And when we talk to someone, it doesn't mean that they're going to fix our stressors. Like, it doesn't mean that it's going to go away, but it's talking to someone means that they can listen attentively without becoming distracted or expressing judgment. And sharing your feelings with another person can just help take the load off. I mean, you don't have to go to a professional counselor or therapist. You can talk to your spouse, your partner, or even a friend about what you're feeling, but please know that it is okay to not be okay. And if you need to seek professional counseling, then please do so. It is okay. I love the saying, it's okay to not be okay. And finally, reframe your outlook. Make sure to take days off if you can to get a break and recharge your batteries. Getting away from the situation completely will help you shift your perspective, but you don't have to take a vacation to refresh. It doesn't have to be an extravagant one. Even a staycation or a stay daycation can help you refocus and recharge. And just a couple of other things, setting boundaries, not overextending yourself at work, learning how to say no. It's when we say no to certain things that we're allowed to say yes to the things that truly matter. And building in breaks is important, and this means even digital ones. So taking a daily break from technology, setting time to step away from the computer, your email, your smartphone, even social media, just disconnecting from it all. If you have to force yourself to take a break, do it. It's important that we take a break, set aside time to check in with ourselves. So ask yourself, how are you doing emotionally? How am I doing physically? And be present. I'm really trying to focus on this myself. Being present and being okay with the quiet. Practicing mindfulness or deep breathing. That's, deep breathing forces us to focus on one inhale and one exhale. And then when we're doing that, we're focusing on that very moment. And I actually just switched I don't know how many of you have Apple Watches, but I have an Apple Watch and you can change the face of the Apple Watch. And mine, I just recently set it to the breathing one. So every time I lift my wrist, it's like a little flower and it goes in and out. And so when I'm looking at my watch and it goes in, I'm breathing in. And then when it comes out, I'm breathing out. So it gives me that minute or two just to kind of take a deep breath and focus on that moment. Learning to manage your stress, again, this goes back to learning techniques like the yoga, the meditation, the deep breathing, and just setting aside the time to engage in those things. But one of the other things is getting creative. Creativity is another powerful antidote to burnout. So try something new, explore a new hobby, or start a fun project. I know I do like to color. It kind of helps relieve stress, but you can choose activities that have nothing to do with work so that when you're engaging in those things, it's not work related or it takes you away from your stressors. So burnout is obviously an undeniable sign that something important in your life is not working. So it's time to take a step back and think about what really makes you happy. Time to slow down and give yourself time to rest and reflect and even heal. So one of the biggest things that I feel is a relevant topic right now is caregiver stress. And I think that someone mentioned in the chat that they're caring for an elder parent. And this can be, I haven't had to experience this yet, but I do have friends that actually have one right now that is dealing with it. And caring for an elderly parent or a sick relative can leave you feeling depleted. And a caregiver is someone who offers care to another person in need. So like a child, an aging parent, a relative, or a friend. And most Americans will act as caregivers at some point in their lives. In fact, today, more than 1 in 5 Americans are providing unpaid care to an adult with needs. And the percentage is expected to increase as the proportion of Americans who are elderly increase. And this number is expected to double between the years 2000 and 2030. And between the years 2015 and 2020 alone, the number of family caregivers increased by 9.5 million people. I thought that was astonishing. So I wanted to share that. Caregivers, I mean, they're not nursing or medical experts. If you're a family member taking care of another family member, and it can really cause a lot of stress. I know my neighbor, the one I walk with in my neighborhood, her husband's mother is actually really sick, and he's had to travel back and forth to Knoxville, which is about 3 hours from Nashville, where I am. And he works a full-time job. He has 3 children that play multiple sports in all different directions. His wife works full-time. They just took their dog because the husband doesn't want to leave the wife's side. So you have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself so that you can give to others. Job stress is another form of stress that can lead to burnout. Small stressors, like things like a copy machine that never seems to work or phones that don't stop ringing. But the major stress comes from having too much or not enough work, or doing work that doesn't satisfy you. Some common sources of major job stress include, again, the lack of control, more responsibility, your job satisfaction and performance, and even uncertain work roles. So not sure how your duties or your job, if you're unsure about those, getting clarity from your manager, your supervisor, whatever, can help. And poor communication. If you don't feel comfortable talking to your team, to your manager about your needs, your concerns, or frustrations, that can also create stress. And lack of support. It can be stressful to work with no support. And now that I know, for me, I'm completely remote now, where I was going to the office prior to COVID and before all of the changes. And it can really, it can cause a lot of stress. And if you're working in unpleasant or dangerous conditions, like ergonomically or overcrowded, chaotic environments, it can all cause stress. So setting up those boundaries between your job and your personal life, that all takes work. So, maybe we have a hard time saying no. And these days with technology, most of us, we're accessible 24 hours a day. It takes a lot to disconnect from work. So just taking a step back and really figuring out what you can do, just making those small little changes can really help. And even if you love what you do, you can still experience job stress, right? So learning to balance your work and personal life. When you're at home, unplug from work. Don't check your work email when you're on PTO or spending time with family and friends. Turning off your email notifications and your text alerts. Setting your phone to do not disturb mode, or even, simply turning it off. And I know for some people this might not be feasible, but if so, just making one small change can help. Staying organized and breaking a large project into smaller steps, doing one thing at a time, using a calendar to plan your week to help remind you of upcoming project deadlines and events, and getting support. So finding out if your company offers resources to help manage your stress. Some companies have an employee assistance program, or EAP. So you want to maybe take advantage of these resources if your company offers them. Again, you can always talk to a professional counselor and they can help with the way you respond to stress, but see if your company offers these resources. Again, learning to relax. We've already talked about the deep breathing and meditation. They can be done anywhere, anytime. Maybe taking a walk during your breaks, even getting up and stretching or taking your eyes off your work, even for a few minutes, can help. And please pat yourself on the back. Don't forget to give yourself some positive feedback. If you slip up, don't bring yourself down by feeling bad about yourself. Just think positive. I know sometimes it's easier said than done, but don't forget to give yourself a pat on the back. So before we move on, I'm going to talk about specific health trust and the EAP, but are there any questions as far as the content that I've covered? There is additional information that I'm posting here, but again, this will be in the email when you receive the recording, but you want to be sure to log into your secure account on HealthTrust Secure Enrollee Portal and click the Onlife Health button, and then there you can find the resources related to today's topic. So if there aren't any specific questions, I'll move on to the HealthTrust portion. So through HealthTrust Slice of Life program, you have access to the Life Resources Employee Assistance Program, or EAP. And, you know, everyone, like I said, faces challenges, and this program helps with issues, large or small, that can affect your health and happiness, as well as your family and work life. So your EAP means you don't have to face those challenges alone. The resources are available at no cost to you and include mental health counseling, consultations with a certified public accountant or lawyer, life coaching, and work-life referral services. So to learn more, to find out more, you can click the Learn More button on the blue journey card on this tile, the Life Resources Employee Assistance Program. You can also click the little eye icon in the top right corner of the journey card. But if you click on Learn More, you will be directed to this flyer that explains all about the program and what it offers and how you can log in and access the tool. There's also information on the EAP program on the HealthTrust page. So you can access this page by clicking on the hamburger menu in the top left corner of your dashboard and then clicking on HealthTrust. So you would just click on that hamburger menu and then click on HealthTrust. And then from there, you'll be directed to a page that contains important news and links. And you'll just scroll down until you see the support section, and there you'll find the information related to the EAP program. So to summarize, you can access the EAP information by calling the number displayed here on the slide. You can log into your secure account and click on the Life Resources button. And you can even visit the Life Resources website at mylifeexpert.com and use the username and password provided here. So by understanding the symptoms and causes of burnout and having these tools in hand, you can prevent and better manage it. So please just really want to focus on taking the time to pause and change direction by learning how you can help yourself overcome burnout. So I hope that you've learned something throughout this presentation. If you want to take a minute and let me know if there's one new thing that you learned, I would love to know. And then I will look at these questions. I feel like I've gotten just a few questions or comments about things. So I will take a minute and look at those and try to answer any questions. Barbara, is it possible to experience burnout from continuing COVID rest? I absolutely think for sure. I mean, yes, 100% agree with that. To me, it feels like it's just never ending. So there's always something, and you know, we have to be diligent with what we're doing. So it can most definitely cause burnout. You know, when I first started working from home, completely working from home, I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. My son was at home from school. My husband was here. We were all here. I was trying to work. He was trying to do remote school. Thankfully, they're back in school, but it can really take a toll on your health. So you have to, again, going back to prioritizing yourself, just taking time for that yourself. Yes, you learn the difference between stress and burnout. I'm so glad. Yes, it's so easy. Sometimes the symptoms overlap. So thank you for that feedback. Donna, you and your husband just purchased pickleball rackets. My mother plays pickleball and she loves it. She's 70, she'll be 72, and plays it and like 3 times a week. She loves it. Dominic, thank you so much. Yes, you will be able to, receive a link through the email. Donna said sandwich generation is a real thing. Oh, I've never heard of it like that. Caught between caring for your kids and your parents. Yes, my friend, the one that I was telling you about, her father-in-law just will not leave the mother, his wife's bedside, and they had a dog. They had to give the dog away. He just doesn't want to leave her. And so now the dog, I know it's a dog, but you have to pass on those responsibilities, and it can be really hard. It can take a toll for sure. So do you have any specific suggestions? Dee Dee, Abby, if you want to email me, happy to send you some information about that. Yes, please, I encourage you all to take advantage of your EAP. If you have further questions, you can feel free to email me directly. I want to thank HealthTrust for giving me the opportunity to share this information with you. I hope you found it valuable. Stay tuned for our next webinar, which is in November, and more details will be coming soon. Are there any more questions before I end the webinar? I don't want to just cut someone off if you have a question. If not, like I said, please feel free to email me. I hope you all have a great rest of the week.